Now, in the last episode, we looked at the 1930s and how the Depression shaped musical theatre by the growth of movie musicals. Now, by the 1940s, the effects of the Depression were still being felt, however, with the added pressure of the Second World War. Now, the American musical in particular focused on boosting morale and developing a sense of patriotism. The early 40s saw shows and music being developed by composers such as Irving Berlin and Cole Porter, with shows such as Louisiana Purchase and Panama Hattie. Now, of course, we can't begin to talk about the golden age of musicals without mentioning Rodgers and Hammerstein. Rodgers and Hammerstein developed a new form of musical, also known as the integrated musical. Their 1943 show Oklahoma is often credited as being the first integrated stage musical. Now, it's important that I say it was a stage musical because movie musicals, on the other hand, were already developing this format. Now, the integrated musical is a very familiar concept. The idea is that song and dance help facilitate the plot, often reflecting how a character feels or often driving a plot forward. This is in contrast to the backstage musical. Now, the backstage musical often had music and dance that were quite detached from the plot. The focus on music and dance in these backstage musicals was merely to do with this idea of spectacle. In relation to Oklahoma then, this idea of the integrated musical was a real turning point in musical theatre history. Now, during this period, the pair went on to create more famous shows such as South Pacific, The King and I, and The Sound of Music. The Rodgers and Hammerstein musical can be examined by their use of a certain formula. Now, their formula often related to the characters or plot, but we can also examine 5 different types of songs within most musicals in the golden age of musical theatre. The first song we can identify is the I Want song. This song expresses the objectives or needs of a certain character. We can see this in I Have Confidence from The Sound of Music, Wouldn't It Be Lovely from My Fair Lady, and more recently, I Want to Be a Producer from The Producers. The next type of song is the love song. Now, I'm sure we're all familiar with what a love song is. These songs are still seen in musicals today, and we can see them in Without Love from Hairspray, All I Ask of You from The Phantom of the Opera, Can You Feel the Love Tonight from The Lion King. The next type of song is the comic list song. Now, the comic list song doesn't exactly drive the plot forward, however, it does add a light-hearted note to the show. We can see this in You Got Trouble from Music Man. The next style of song is the plotless and kind of pointless Act 2 opener. The whole purpose of this kind of song is to ease audiences back into the show after they've had the interval. We also have the 11 o'clock number. The 11 o'clock number was often the penultimate song in a show. It tied everything up. It got its name because Broadway shows used to start a bit later, so around 11 o'clock this song was sung. The 1950s continued this trend of successful American musicals, and we started to see new names emerge on Broadway. One of them was Leonard Bernstein, who composed the music for West Side Story. Now, Bernstein had been working in music since the 1940s, but West Side Story really sort of elevated his status in musical theatre. In the world of dance, we also started to see the work of Bob Fosse, both on stage and screen. Fosse left his mark on musicals from his combination of several different styles of dance, and his dance is often characterised by shoulder rolls and mime-like articulation. We can see his work in Cabaret, Damn Yankees, and Chicago. As we move towards the 1960s, new names such as Stephen Sondheim or Jerry Herman started to be household names in musical theatre. Sondheim himself was actually mentored by Oscar Hammerstein. His work tended to be quite darker. He wrote shows such as A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum, and later he wrote Sweeney Todd and Into the Woods. The 60s are also characterised by free love and social liberation, and theatre was very much caught up in that as well as other sections of society. We started to see a new form of musical develop, the rock musical. Now, rock musicals such as Hair shocked audiences, especially with the scenes of nudity on stage. We were in a new period of musical theatre. The golden age was now over, and we were now making way for the new musical. Whilst rock musicals were the in thing, the American-style musical was being overtaken by something different. Shows that were headed by British creative teams, often headed by Andrew Lloyd Webber, were a huge success with shows such as Jesus Christ Superstar and Evita. The musicals of the 1970s are often characterised by what we call the concept musical, a show that focuses on a concept rather than a plot. These kind of shows were often favoured by people such as Andrew Lloyd Webber, who went on to use this style of musical way up into the 80s and 90s. We also started to see the growth of the dance musical, shows such as A Chorus Line, derived from these concept musicals and really focused on the dance element of a show. There was also a significant growth in shows that focused on black characters and black creative teams. This was a direct result of the growth in the black arts movement. We can see this in the musical adaptation of Lorraine Hanbury's A Raisin in the Sun, simply titled Raisin, Dreamgirls, and The Wiz. And that's it for today. Next time I'll be looking at the dominance of the British musical in the 80s, the corporation musicals of the 90s, as well as looking at some more modern musicals. If you've liked this video and want to know more about musical theatre history, drama and acting, be sure to like, comment and subscribe. See you soon!